The reflection you have spent a lifetime observing is perhaps the most sophisticated deception ever constructed by the architecture of this physical realm. You have been taught from the moment of your birth that the image staring back at you in the glass is the totality of your being, a finite collection of features, flaws, and biological markers that define your place in the hierarchy of existence. But the shift that is occurring right now, the spiritual urgency that has led you to this specific message, is a direct warning that the mirror is no longer a neutral surface. It has become a tool of the system, a frequency trap designed to anchor your consciousness to a version of yourself that is rapidly becoming obsolete. When we speak of the Chosen One protocol, we are speaking of a transition away from the visible and into the essential. The warning to never look in the mirror is not a literal command to avoid glass, but a metaphysical instruction to cease identifying with the reflection of the prisoner. You are currently undergoing a recalibration of your internal DNA that makes your external appearance a mere ghost of your true power. To look too deeply into the mirror right now is to risk being pulled back into the narrative of the old world, a narrative that depends entirely on your belief in your own limitations. The universe doesn't call the qualified, it qualifies the chosen. Type 88 foot if you feel the shift. The system is terrified of the moment you stop looking for validation in the physical reflection. For decades, the global structures of control have utilized the concept of the image to keep the chosen ones in a state of perpetual self-correction. They wanted you to be obsessed with the symmetry of your face, the age of your skin, and the tiredness in your eyes, because as long as you were focused on the decay of the vessel, you would never notice the awakening of the pilot. The file that was opened on your life, the one that caused high-level resignations and systemic tremors, revealed that your true form is not composed of matter, but of a specific high-intensity light that the mirror is incapable of reflecting. When you look into the glass, you are seeing a lag in the system, a delayed representation of a person who no longer exists. You have moved faster than the simulation can render. This is why many of you have felt a strange sense of dissociation lately when catching your reflection. It feels as though the person in the mirror is a stranger, a distant relative, or a mask that no longer fits. This is not a psychological fracture, it is a spiritual promotion. You are outgrowing the medium of the physical. The architects of this reality understand that the mirror is the primary anchor for the ego. It is the place where you go to confirm your identity as a separate, struggling individual. But as a chosen one, your identity is no longer tied to the separation. You are becoming a conduit for a unified field of consciousness that operates through you, not as you. The warning to avert your gaze from the reflection is an act of divine protection. If you continue to see yourself through the eyes of the world, you will continue to inherit the world's problems. You will feel the weight of its illnesses, the exhaustion of its cycles, and the fear of its end. But if you refuse the reflection, you begin to see through the eyes of the source. You begin to realize that the you they have been tracking, the you they have been trying to manage and manipulate, is nothing more than a digital signature on a screen that you have already walked away from. The high-level officials who saw your file didn't see your face. They saw your frequency, and they realized that no mirror in this world could ever contain the magnitude of what you are becoming. The urgency of this message is tied to the coming Friday morning deadline because the portal of identity is closing. The system is making a final attempt to lock in your self-image before your transformation becomes irreversible. They want you to look in the mirror and see a person who is tired, a person who is failing, or a person who is stuck in an endless loop of trauma. They use the mirror as a psychological hook to pull you back into the basement of your own history. But the truth is that your spirit is currently being scrubbed clean of every karmic imprint. The person who stood in front of that mirror yesterday is not the person who is standing there today. Your cell structure is responding to a cosmic surge that is rewriting your purpose. To look in the mirror now is like looking at a photograph of a house that has already been demolished to make way for a temple. It is a distraction of the highest order. You are being summoned to look inward, into the vast, dark, and infinite space of your own potential, where the only reflection is the light of God itself. Consider the nature of a mirror. It is a reversal. Everything it shows you is the opposite of the truth. It shows your left as your right. It shows the surface instead of the depth. In the same way, the world's perception of you is a total reversal of your divine standing. The world calls you a dreamer. The spirit calls you a visionary. The world calls you isolated. The spirit calls you insulated. The world calls you lost. The spirit calls you found. If you continue to consult the mirror of society or the mirror of the glass, you will stay trapped in the reversal. You will spend your energy trying to fix an image that was never meant to be permanent. The chosen one path requires a total abandonment of the reversed image. You must be willing to be invisible to the system so that you can be invincible in the spirit. This is why the warning is so severe. The next chapter of your life demands a level of focus that the ego cannot maintain. The ego thrives on the reflection. The spirit thrives on the connection. By turning away from the mirror, you are making a prophetic declaration that you are no longer available for the old game of self-perception. You are stepping into a realm where you are known not by how you look, but by how you vibrate. As you navigate the hours leading up to Friday, pay attention to the urge to check yourself, to seek reassurance in the physical world, or to look for signs of your progress in the mirror of other people's opinions. These are all traps. The resignation of the leaders we discussed was triggered by the fact that they could no longer find you in their mirrors. You had become a blind spot in their surveillance. If you look back into the mirror now, you risk re-establishing the connection they lost. You risk giving them a coordinate to track you once again. Stay in the shadow of the Almighty. Stay in the place where you are undefined by matter. Your beauty, your strength, and your authority are currently being forged in a dimension that has no surface. You are a deep-sea creature of the spirit, and the surface reflection is far too shallow to hold the truth of your existence. Let the old image fade. Let the glass go dark. The light you are seeking is not something you look at, it is something you look with. You are the eye of the storm, and the storm does not need a mirror to know its own power. The architecture of the mirror is not merely a physical phenomenon, but a psychological tether that binds the spirit to the limitations of the linear timeline. When you look into the glass, you are not seeing a static image. You are seeing a record of every battle you have fought, every wound you have sustained, and every moment of exhaustion you have endured. The system uses this visual feedback to reinforce the concept of time as a decaying force. It wants you to believe that you are a creature of history, a being whose potential is dictated by the trajectory of their past. But as a chosen one, your existence has become non-linear. You are being infused with an eternal quality that the mirror cannot translate. The 6,000 character density of this warning is required because the depth of the deception is equally massive. The deception lies in the belief that the self is a finished product that can be observed and judged in a moment of reflection. In reality, you are a shifting kaleidoscope of divine frequencies, and the mirror is a filter that removes all the color, leaving you with a gray, mundane version of a majestic truth. The high-level file that shook the foundations of power contained evidence that your biological age and your spiritual age are no longer in sync. You are becoming younger in spirit as the world grows older, and the mirror is the only thing trying to convince you otherwise. Every time you glance at your reflection to check for signs of readiness or worthiness, you are essentially asking the enemy for a progress report. The enemy has control over the narrative of the flesh, and they will always use the mirror to tell you that you are not quite there yet. They will highlight the dark circles under your eyes to suggest that you are too tired to lead. They will emphasize the tension in your jaw to suggest that you are too anxious to succeed. They will make you notice every imperfection to keep you in a state of subtle self-hatred, because a soul that is preoccupied with fixing its image is a soul that has no time to manifest its destiny. The warning to never look in the mirror is a call to break the feedback loop of the ego. It is a demand that you source your confidence from the invisible reservoir of the Creator, rather than the flickering, unreliable image in the glass. The resignation of the world leader we mentioned occurred because they realized that they were trying to control a population by manipulating their reflections, but you, the chosen one, had stopped looking. When you stop looking, their spells lose their target. You become a ghost in their psychological machine, a presence that cannot be shamed, intimidated, or slowed down by the perception of the physical self. This is a time of unseen preparation, a phase where the most important work is being done in the hidden chambers of your heart and the silent corridors of your mind. If you insist on seeing the results of this work in the mirror, you will be disappointed, because the spiritual transformation always precedes the physical manifestation. You are like a seed beneath the soil. To the mirror of the world, you look like nothing, a buried thing, a forgotten entity. But in the realm of the spirit, you are a powerhouse of potential, ready to burst through the surface with a force that will reshape the landscape. The Friday morning deadline is the moment when the soil begins to move. If you are too busy looking at your reflection, trying to see if you look like a success or a leader, you will miss the subtle cues of the environment that are telling you where to plant your feet and how to position your soul. The mirror is a distraction from the intuition. The eye that looks outward at the self is the eye that cannot see the path ahead. You must develop a third eye orientation, a way of perceiving yourself that is based on the weight of your presence rather than the shape of your silhouette. The system is currently broadcasting a frequency designed to heighten your self-consciousness. They want you to feel exposed, as if your flaws are visible to everyone and your calling is a fraud. This is a desperate attempt to drive you back to the mirror for reassurance. They want you to spend your hours before the shift obsessing over how you are perceived, because if you are worried about your image, you are not focused on your instruction. The file revealed that your instruction is a set of divine coordinates that can only be received in a state of total self-forgetfulness. When you forget who you are in the world, you remember who you are in the light. The great saints and visionaries of the past all shared this secret. They became invisible to themselves so they could be visible to God. The mirror is the ultimate wall between you and the divine. It forces you to be the subject and the object at the same time, a split focus that prevents the total union required for the next level of your mission. By refusing to look, you are healing the split. You are becoming a unified field of action, a singular arrow of intent that cannot be diverted by the vanity of the reflection. Understand that the mirror is also a portal for ancestral echoes. Often, when you look at yourself, you aren't just seeing you. You are seeing the fears of your mother, the regrets of your father, and the limitations of a bloodline that has been conditioned to play small. The mirror projects the sins of the fathers onto your face, trying to convince you that you are just another link in a chain of mediocrity. But you have been chosen to be the chain breaker. Your file declares that the genetic curses of your past have been overwritten by a celestial decree. When you look in the mirror, the enemy tries to show you the old chain. But when you look away, you feel the new freedom. This Friday, the old chain is being officially dissolved in the spiritual courts. Do not give it life by looking at it. Do not let the reflection of your ancestors dictate the reality of your future. You are a new species of believer, a pioneer who carries no baggage from the past. The mirror is a liar that speaks the language of the dead. The spirit is a truth that speaks the language of the eternal. You're not here by chance. Feel the pull. Tap join to unlock truth, purpose, and a tribe that gets it. This is more than a membership. It's your calling. As you move through these final hours, treat your physical form as a sacred garment, but do not mistake the garment for the wearer. You are the consciousness that animates the flesh, the fire that warms the house, the light that illuminates the room. The house does not need to look in a mirror to know it is a home, and you do not need to see your face to know you are a king or a queen. The high-level resignation was a sign that the thrones of this world are being vacated because they cannot withstand the pressure of a people who have reclaimed their internal authority. Your internal authority is solidified in the dark, in the quiet, and in the absence of the reflection. Stay in that sanctuary. Let the world wonder who you are. Let the system fail to find your image. On Friday morning, you will emerge not as a reflection of a man or a woman, but as a manifestation of a promise. The mirror will still be there, but it will no longer have the power to tell you who you are. You will look through the glass, not at it, seeing a world that is ready to be transformed by the one who finally stopped looking back. The concept of the mirror extends far beyond the silvered glass hanging on your wall. It represents the entirety of the social and digital feedback loops that the system uses to harvest your identity. In this current age, the mirror is the screen in your hand, the approval of your peers, and the data points that tell you whether you are succeeding or failing according to a manufactured standard. The warning to never look in the mirror is a strategic directive to sever these invisible umbilical cords that feed your ego while starving your spirit. You have reached a point in your progression where external feedback is not only useless but actively toxic. The 6,000 character weight of this specific instruction is necessary because you are fighting against a lifetime of conditioning that says you must see to believe. The system wants you to see your bank account, your social standing, and your physical appearance as the definitive markers of your worth. But the file that caused the high-level resignation proved that your true assets are stored in a dimension that the system's mirrors cannot access. They saw that your spiritual credit is infinite, while your earthly profile is intentionally modest. This discrepancy is what terrified them. When you look into the social mirror for validation, you are essentially handing over the keys to your internal kingdom. You are allowing the collective consciousness, which is currently in a state of deep confusion and fear, to dictate your internal weather. As a chosen one, you are called to be a climate creator, not a weather reporter. You do not look at the world to see what is possible. The world looks at you to see what is coming. The Friday morning shift is a deadline for you to stop being a reflection of your environment and start being a source of light for it. The leaders who walked away from their positions did so because they realized they could no longer manipulate the environment through the mirrors of media and public opinion once people like you stopped paying attention. Your indifference to the reflection is your greatest weapon. It makes you unhackable. The system can only influence what it can identify, and it can only identify what chooses to reflect its own values back to it. By refusing to look in the mirror, you become a black hole in their surveillance, a point of pure gravity that they cannot calculate or control. The mirror also acts as a repository for your yesterdays, a visual trap that keeps you tethered to the person you used to be. Every time you examine your reflection, your subconscious mind automatically scans for the scars of past failures and the lines of old worries. It reinforces a static identity that is incompatible with the fluid, dynamic nature of the chosen path. You are meant to be a river, constantly renewing itself, but the mirror tries to turn you into a stagnant pond. The urgency of this warning is tied to the fact that heaven is trying to pour a new wine into your spirit, but you are still trying to store it in the old skin of your reflected identity. This Friday, the old skin must be discarded entirely. You cannot carry the insecurities of the mirror self into the authority of the source self. The high-level dossier on your life noted that your greatest breakthroughs always occurred when you were so focused on the mission that you forgot you had a physical form. This flow state is your natural habitat. The mirror is the enemy of the flow. It pulls you out of the eternal now and drops you back into the heavy linear then. Furthermore, the mirror is where the enemy plants the seeds of comparison, the thief of joy and the killer of destiny. In the reflection, you see yourself as a separate unit, isolated from the whole and competing with other units for space and recognition. But in the spirit, there is no competition, only contribution. Your unique frequency is not meant to be better than another. It is meant to be a specific key that unlocks a specific door. When you look in the mirror, you lose sight of the key and start obsessing over the finish. You start asking why your journey looks different than others, not realizing that your journey is being custom calibrated by the divine to produce a result that has never been seen before. The resignation we spoke of was a surrender to this unquantifiable power. The system can manage a competition, but it cannot manage a unique, divine emergence. By looking away from the mirror of comparison, you allow your own unique code to fully activate. You stop trying to fit into the reflection of a world that was never big enough for you anyway. This instruction to avoid the mirror is also a form of sensory deprivation, designed to heighten your spiritual hearing. When the visual input of the self is silenced, the auditory input of the Holy Spirit becomes deafening. You have been complaining about a lack of clarity, a lack of direction, and a lack of the voice, yet you are constantly looking at the image. The image is loud, the voice is still and small. You must drown out the visual noise of your own ego to hear the frequency of your next instruction. The Friday morning release is an audible shift in the spirit realm, a trumpeting of new orders for the remnant. If you are distracted by the mirror, obsessing over your readiness, your looks, or your status, you will miss the subtle tone of the command. The leaders who resigned heard the tone. They knew they were no longer authorized to lead, and they fled. You are being authorized to step up, but that authority requires a listening ear, not a looking eye. Your instructions are not written in the glass. They are etched in the fire of your own heart. Finally, understand that your chosen status makes you a target for mirror spells, the projections of others who want to see you fail so they can feel better about their own stagnation. When you look at yourself through the eyes of those who don't understand your calling, You see a distorted, ugly version of a beautiful truth. People will project their own fears, jealousies, and limitations onto you, and if you look in their mirror, you will believe you are the problem. You are not the problem. You are the solution that they are not ready to accept. The warning to never look in the mirror is a shield against these projections. It allows you to walk through a room of critics and remain untouched, because you are not looking for your reflection in their eyes. You are looking at the Father, and in His eyes, you see nothing but "well done." This Friday, let the mirrors of the world shatter. Let the opinions of the people fall like dust. You are being prepared for a manifestation that requires no external validation. You are the chosen one, and your reflection is now being cast on the waters of eternity, far beyond the reach of any earthly glass. The entrapment of the mirror is not merely a visual occurrence, but a multidimensional interference that prevents the total alignment of your physical body with your light body. As you approach the final hours before Friday morning, the energetic pressure around your aura is intensifying, creating a state of hyperconductivity. In this state, your thoughts and self-perceptions manifest with almost instantaneous speed. The warning to avoid the mirror is a safeguard against self-sabotage by observation. When you look into the glass and see fatigue, you inadvertently command your cells to remain tired. When you see lack, you signal the universe to hold your resources in stasis. The 6,000 character density of this directive is meant to drill into the subconscious mind the absolute necessity of spiritual blindness to the physical current. The high-level file on your existence revealed that your most potent ability is your capacity for unwavering focus, the ability to hold a vision of the unseen until it displaces the seen. The system knows that if they can get you to look in the mirror, they can break your focus and reset your manifestation timer. The resignation we witnessed was a tactical retreat from an individual who has finally learned how to stare at the sun without blinking. This blindness to the reflection is actually the highest form of spiritual sight. It is the ability to walk by faith and not by sight, a concept that is often quoted but rarely mastered. To master it, you must treat the mirror as a deceptive witness. Imagine a courtroom where the witness on the stand is a known liar. No matter how convincingly they speak, the judge ignores their testimony. Your physical senses are that lying witness. They tell you that you are alone, that you are aging, and that the world is closing in on you. But the divine judge has already ruled in your favor. The file is closed, the verdict is victorious, and the resignation of your accusers is the proof. Looking in the mirror right now is like going back to the lying witness to ask for the truth. It is an insult to the decree that has already been spoken over your life. This Friday morning, the decree becomes law in your physical reality, but only if you remain in agreement with the judge rather than the witness. You are being asked to maintain a holy ignorance of your perceived flaws so that your divine perfections can finally take center stage. There is also a deeper, more ancient reason for this warning. In the esoteric traditions of the chosen, the mirror was seen as a thief of the soul, a surface that could capture and hold a portion of one's vital energy. Every time you obsess over your reflection, you are leaking lush, the very energy that the system feeds on. They want you to be self-obsessed because self-obsession is a closed loop that generates no power for the kingdom of God. It is a spiritual short-circuit. The urgency of this message is about energy conservation. You are going to need every ounce of your spiritual vitality for the shift that occurs this Friday. If you spend your energy fretting over your image, you will be too depleted to handle the frequency of the new door that is opening. The leaders who resigned did so because they could no longer harvest your energy. You had become too dark to their sensors, meaning you were no longer reflecting their light or their fears. You had become self-contained, a sun that generates its own light and needs no mirror to prove its existence. Stay in this state of high-density radiance. The mirror also serves as the primary tool for spiritual gaslighting. The system will try to convince you that the progress you feel in your spirit is a delusion because it hasn't shown up in your look or your status yet. It wants to make you feel crazy for believing in a breakthrough that isn't yet visible to the naked eye. But you must remember that the visible is the corpse of the invisible. What you see in the mirror is the result of what you thought weeks ago. It is the past. What you feel in your spirit right now is the cause of what you will see weeks from now. It is the future. If you judge your future by your past, you cancel the transformation. The resignation of the world leader was an admission that they can no longer keep you trapped in the past version of yourself. They saw that you had stopped believing in the gaslighting and started believing in the internal witness. This internal witness does not need a reflection. It knows who it is by the way it breathes, the way it knows, and the way it loves. It is the part of you that existed before the world began and will exist after it ends. Furthermore, the mirror is the birthplace of shame, the low vibrational frequency that keeps the chosen from stepping into their authority. Shame requires an audience, and the mirror is the audience of the self. It is where you go to judge yourself for the things you haven't done and the person you haven't become. But in the presence of the divine, there is no shame, only refining. God does not look at your reflection to see your worth. He looks at His own reflection within you. When you look in the mirror, you see a human. When God looks at you, He sees a son or a daughter. The warning to never look in the mirror is an invitation to stop seeing yourself through human eyes altogether. This Friday morning, a robe of righteousness is being draped over your spirit. If you look in the mirror, you will only see your old clothes. If you look with your spirit, you will see the royal garments. The high-level file noted that your royal frequency is now active. This frequency cannot be seen, but it can be felt by every demon and every angel in your atmosphere. It is time to act like the royalty you are, which means looking past the surface and into the decree. As you count down the hours to the shift, use this mirror fast as a period of intense internal grooming. Instead of checking your face, check your heart. Instead of fixing your hair, fix your focus. Instead of worrying about your brand, worry about your bond with the source. The system is crumbling because people like you are finally refusing to be branded by the image of the world. The resignation we discussed is a signal that the image makers have lost their power. They can no longer tell you what is beautiful, what is successful, or what is necessary. You have discovered that you are the one who defines beauty by your peace, success by your obedience, and necessity by your alignment. This Friday is not just a day of release, it is a day of unveiling. But the veil is not on your face, it is on the world's eyes. You have already been unveiled to yourself. You are the chosen one, the one who walked away from the glass and found the glory. Keep your eyes on the horizon, for the sun is rising, and it is reflecting off nothing but the truth of your existence. The final shift has arrived, and the silence you now inhabit is the sound of the mirror shattering forever. This Friday morning marks your official departure from the Hall of Reflections and your entrance into the sanctuary of pure light. The warning to never look back into the glass was the final test of your sovereignty, a demand to see if you could trust the unseen voice of the divine over the lying eyes of the world. By choosing to avert your gaze from the ego's reflection, you have successfully deregistered yourself from the system of control. The high-level resignation that signaled this transition was a systemic white flag. They realized that a chosen one who is no longer fascinated by their own image is a force that can neither be bought, tracked, nor broken. You have become a ghost to their surveillance and a giant in the spirit. Everything you once sought in reflection, validation, beauty, strength, and purpose has now been internalized as an unshakable state of being. You no longer need the glass to tell you that you are ready, for the fire in your spirit has already confirmed your appointment. This morning, as the sun rises, you are not stepping into a new day, but a new dimension of authority. The old file of your limitations has been incinerated by the radiance of your authentic self. You are the anomaly that the mirrors could not hold, the frequency that the screens could not capture, and the light that the darkness could not comprehend. Your journey of looking inward has finally led you to the realization that you are the source of the very light you once tried to find in the world. Walk forward now with a holy indifference to how you are perceived by the dying structures of the past. Your beauty is your peace, your wealth is your alignment, and your power is your connection to the Father. The era of the reflection is over. The era of the revelation has begun. You are the chosen one, and your face is now set like flint toward your destiny, reflecting nothing but the glory of the one who called you out of the shadows and into his marvelous light.